what Michael has just described is a fundamentally different paradigm than what we have been mostly used to since the Enlightenment. What we have done so far is to think of everything as a mechanism and impose our will on these mechanisms down to the last subatomic particle. We want to 3D print nature exactly the way we want it to be. That's not going to work. What Michael is describing as a process of communication is very different. It is a kind of collaboration, a cooperation with nature, where you help nature see where it wants to go, and it will do everything by itself. We don't need to 3D print it. It's going to do it if we just engage in a constructive collaboration, an artistic collaboration with nature, wherein both our will and nature's will collaborate towards a common goal. This is a completely different paradigm of thinking than what we are used to. And all I can hope for is that there will be many, many more Michael Levins around not too long from now, because that's the only way to progress. It's this kind of thinking, this kind of perspective that will lead us to the cure of cancer and many other things.
Yeah. Well, and I want to, say that that general idea, while it's completely new in the sort of the scientific realm, and most people actually don't, the molecular biologists and so on don't like that at all. That general idea has been around for a long time in what you might call, let's say, the alternative health community, right? So there, those folks who work on that stuff, they've always been saying that, oh, your tissues have memories and they have intent, and we need to get the buy-in from the cells. And they've been on top of this for the longest time. However, they didn't have the mechanism, right? And so I think for the first time now, we're starting to be able to actually say, okay, let's take this seriously. And it's not the same as seeing a spirit in every rock, because that doesn't actually help you manipulate the rocks. But so we have to have a research program that actually tells you when is it reasonable to say this is the type and level of cognition that you have in this unconventional system. And now we're starting to see, and this is, you're right, of course, that bioelectricity or electricity in general is not magic, but the interesting thing that evolution has done with bioelectricity in bodies, ours and others, is that it uses it as a kind of cognitive glue. So it takes advantage of the use of electrical networks to merge individual cells with their tiny little goals into larger computational networks that have bigger goals and bigger spaces. And so now we have the interface. Now we're starting to see we actually have the interface to communicate with this and to say, I know you think your goal is this, but we're going to rewrite it. We're going to rewrite it and then go. And this is I have this really kind of gross slide that I sometimes show where people, when I give talks and we talk about whether, is the body a machine? And I'm like, look, here is the way orthopedic surgeons see it. And I've got this picture of this, he sent it to me and he allowed me to, show it to others. It's a picture of a guy's arm. It's opened up like this in half. And there's a bunch of screws, and there's somebody with a hammer, like banging the screws in, like, yeah, that is how you work with a machine. So there are some things that are very sort of low level kinds of stuff. But after that, what happens is they put all the bolts in and everything else. They sew it back up, and then they send you home to heal. And what's that? That's the part they can't micromanage. That's the part that where everything else is going to get, and we have all kinds of examples in the lab where you sort of smash some stuff together, and over the next few weeks, everything sort of sorts out and becomes nice and even and nice and smooth. We have no hope of controlling that bottom up. That has to be a motivated process. And at the end, you see this guy's arm and it's working really well. And it's got a nice, very, very light, sort of scar, but everything else is that's the healing part. And so we have in biology now some of the interfaces, and I really do see this as a communications, and the question is how high can you actually go? This was kind of amazing. I was talking to somebody who's not in this field at all. I think it was in finance or something, and I was explaining this idea that we don't want to micromanage stem cells or anything like that. We want to sort of go to the next level and reset these goals. And he said, well, why do you stop there? Why don't you keep going? And what's above that? And there's some very interesting stories in the field of hypnodermatology and something like this, where actually, yeah, there are actually levels above this. We don't know how to access them yet, but it's pretty clear that our multi-scale architecture that we're built of has numerous levels besides this molecular biology that we've been in love with for decades.
You're referring to curing warts through hypnosis.
Well, not just warts. I'll tell this very brief story. There's this guy, and you can find there's a set of 4 lectures by him, or interviews, I guess, Albert Mason, and it's online. Super interesting. So this guy, he was an obstetrician in I think the 50s in the UK, and he was delivering babies. He was using anesthesia, and he didn't like it because it suppressed breathing in the babies, and he wanted to get away from it somehow. And so he decided he was going to try hypnosis. So he tries hypnotic pain relief, and it works, and he's delivering babies. And one day, and his colleagues are kind of making fun of him because it's a unusual approach. And one day they say, well, you think hypnosis is so good? Here, try this. And they give him a patient. He's a young teenager who's got I forget what the exact name of the syndrome is, but it's something ichthyosis. It's really just his arms, the skin is just black and cracking. It's just a terrible skin disease, right? So he says, I don't know. All right, I'll try it. And he gives him so he puts him under. He gives him a hypnotic suggestion that one of the arms is going to clear up. One. And then there's a nice paper that you can see where it's got the photograph of him afterwards. And guess what, right? And so from then on, he says, oh, I see. So we can actually use the interface of the patient's nervous system to go from this high level verbal sort of suggestive interface down to the molecular, whatever cues it's needed for these cells to normalize and new skin cells to appear and whatever. So he goes and he has several decades of success in hypnodermatology, treating all kinds of diseases and so on. And then he quits. And the reason he quits, and this was the most interesting part of the talk, the reason he quits is because he noticed the following, that his patients, their skin issues would clear up, but they would acquire other problems. So they would start smoking, they would start to be mean to their spouse, something else would happen. And he eventually became a psychoanalyst and a therapist because he hopped 2 levels. He went from the cellular signaling of skin up to that kind of interface, all the way up to where he then thought, after watching these patients, and sort of he felt that it was like pushing the pile under the rug, right? You sort of smash it down one place, you've got the buy-in of the cells, and so they're going to normalize, but you haven't got the buy-in of the entire organism. And for whatever complicated, and I'm not an expert in any of this, so I'm just sort of telling you what he said, for whatever complicated sort of holistic reason, it's going to pop up somewhere else. It's going to pop up in behavior or a digestive disorder. This is something else, and that he felt that the way to clear this up is really, he was sort of aiming at as high as he could, right? So I think that's really interesting. And just the last thing that I'll say is this, because when oftentimes when people hear like hypnodermatology, they think, well, it's some sort of like really rare and unusual mind-body medicine, some sort of yoga or some kind of biofeedback or something. It's it's a rare, weird thing. Well, just realize that every time in the morning when you get up, when you wake up and you think to yourself, I've got all kinds of financial, career, and scientific goals. I'm going to get up out of bed, go to the wherever, and I'm going to do my job. For you for that high level executive intent to make you actually get up out of bed, it has to get transduced to the movement of potassium and sodium ions across your muscle membrane. That mind-body interaction is happening 24/7 in your body. It's not some rare, weird, controversial thing. It's the way we walk around all day long, right? This high-level cognition through the bioelectrical, and it literally is a bioelectrical interface that converts. It's like a transformer that converts from that level of intent down to, okay, now you better move some potassium ions across that muscle, otherwise you're not getting up. So we are an amazing integrated system, right? That works across these levels. And if that's true, then surely the molecular level is not the only level to do biomedical interventions. So that's how I come at it.
And I suppose I'm curious as well in hearing that if that cure for cancer will be similar. I'm hoping it won't be similar to the hypnotic cure for the skin diseases, and there's some other underlying reason for the cancer, but you can use that bioelectrical intervention.
We know that induced experiential stress is promotive of cancer. So we know that certain kinds of behavioral experiences tend to actually promote cell defections from the network. I can only assume that if we knew what we were doing, there would be a way to drive them back with experiences. We just don't know how to do that yet. So we're still playing at that lower interface. But I mean, that guy was right. I think we actually could at some point jump levels up.